This nonlinear documentary follows 6 teenage girls living on the streets of Cairo in Egypt, depicting scenes of violence but also of freedom. The 1-hour-long film was directed by Egyptian director Tahani Rashid, together with an almost all-female crew, and produced in 2006. The experienced documentary maker accompanied the girls in the so-called Third Cairo for 1 year, capturing the abuse and love they experience and are experiencing. As you can already hear from these first few sentences, the images are always images of contrast, but never of dichotomy. The highs and lows of their relationships with each other and men in their lives go hand in hand. Rashad has received great reviews from international film festivals and Egyptians alike, most of which praised the lack of sensationalization or cry for pity. For me, watching the documentary felt like watching raw footage. The edits are very simple, with almost invisible transitions and yet great effect. For closer analysis, I want to break down the film into 4 topics that were captured. Firstly, gender dynamics. Secondly, violence and uncertainty. Thirdly, family and love. And fourthly, motherhood. Although all of these are intertwined and highlight the intersectional nature of this documentary, they were given their own spotlight in specific scenes. Right in the first few minutes of the film, a scene introducing one of the main characters, Dunya, shows her fighting with a man. For the audience, who is generally either international or the Egyptian middle class, this image is new and challenges our awareness of gender dynamics in Egypt. Dunya is not only young, normally required to show respect for older people, but she's also a girl approaching womanhood, which, in usual or stereotypical depictions of gender in Arab countries, would mean her inferior status to men. There are 3 things I want to highlight here. Firstly, the camera is positioned on her side of the conflict. This observation is particularly crucial when keeping in mind the filmmaker, who is focused on capturing female agency and resistance on the streets. Secondly, the camera moves from filming below, picturing the man in bigger size, to coming to eye level of Dunya, illustrating her standing up for herself. Lastly, the 4th wall is broken because Dunya mentions the presence of the camera team. This happens twice more during the film. One time when Rashid asks an interview question but doesn't cut out her voice. The editor Mona Rabi may have made this choice deliberately as to highlight the authenticity and truthfulness of the documentary. And another time when Sister Hind asks the girl if she felt comfortable without the camera team. This also was not cut but intentionally left as part of the film and thus narrative to show the notion of trust and mutual understanding between the film team and subjects. In this first scene then, we see challenged stereotypes which increase the audience's assumption that social and gender relations on the street are different. When addressing the next topic, violence, I don't want to merely talk about the apparent physical violence of kidnapping, weapons and theft, but also the systemic violence these girls are trapped in and can't escape. The scene that beautifully and symbolically captures this best is when one of the girls is sitting on a tree, ripping a flower and playing the globally popular children's game of he loves me not. Our protagonist, however, changes the lines to they will jail me not. Friends and family members of these characters are in jail, and girls are known to police. At one point, they address the police by their first names. This daily uncertainty, the precariousness of their substance abuse and exposure to the streets is thus shown as a direct contrast to a child with a regular childhood. Equally, several girls in the film are scared to be murdered by their fathers because they are pregnant. In minute 55:22 is where this is illustrated in a very raw and emotional scene of girls comforting each other. They swear that they will protect each other against their fathers and other men. Here it is crucial to mention that the director has worked on this film not alone or with her crew, but together with the girls. They wanted to make the film as much as she did, which becomes apparent in these trustful and heartwarming scenes. To them, the definition of family is changed and has become a totally new meaning. Sister Hind, for example, is their family. This character is introduced with her arrival in the area. Everyone comes running to her and hugging her. Meanwhile, the camera just remains still and captures the moment in a dignified and respectful way. This scene, together with scenes of dancing and acrobatics, highlights again that these characters, although toughened by the streets and equipped with weapons and adult language, are at the end of the day still kids. Something that I absolutely loved about this film was its portrayal and definition of motherhood. On one hand, this portrayal was through the character of Hind, who cared for the girls as if they were her own children. She was already shown met with love and calmness. Her interviews were always filmed in a sunny grass field. On the other side, the portrayal was also made through the characters of women who were raped or who said they would kill their child if it was a girl. Both narratives mentioned here are shown intertwined, which made me as an audience really appreciate the non-linear structure of the film. Additionally, the music could change from being playful to being sad within seconds, because they are the extremes that the girls are experiencing. This documentary is especially relevant in a world desensitized to poverty, not only in Egypt but across the world. Through simple and truthful editing, interview close-ups, a playful score, and non-linear narrative structure, the film exposes how solidarity, childhood, womanhood, motherhood, and violence are not separate experiences, but one experiences, namely that of teenage girls living on the streets of Cairo.